Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to this meeting. I think this meeting that has been put together by Vice President Mark Tajiob of the World Bank and my very good friend and old classmate, Simeon Hugh, is a fantastic meeting. I wish I could join you, but I have another panel that starts exactly at the same time as yours. But let me say the issue you're discussing about today is so critical. Agriculture is a lifeline for Africa. Agriculture today is a place where Africa ought to be making money, not spending money on other people's agriculture. Today we are spending $35 billion a year importing food that we ought to be producing. And if we do nothing, that's going to rise to $110 billion by 2030. That's not the kind of expenditure Africa should be making. Because when we do that, we decimate our rural areas, we export our jobs, and we actually weaken our own macroeconomies as well. And therefore, I believe that we must totally and radically transform agriculture in Africa. Africa must feed itself, and Africa must contribute to feeding the world. To be able to do that, Africa needs to invest heavily in research, in innovation, and on technologies, the kind of issues you'll be talking about during this meeting. Why do I think this is important? I went to Purdue University, land-grant university in the United States. The food that you see in the United States today is produced in the heartland of America because the university system produces the right kind of technologies, the right kind of information and management systems that support their farmers. And that's why they're the most productive farmers that you find anywhere in the world. I am very glad that a number of initiatives in Africa are already on the right track and they ought to be supported. I'm very proud of the work of RU Forum, the Regional Universities Forum, that's actually doing very, very well. We supported that when I was in Rockefeller Foundation many years ago. I'm very proud as well of the fact that that program has helped to standardize curriculum all across African universities. We now know that whether you are trained in Makerere, or you are trained in University of Pretoria, or you are trained in a university in Nigeria, you're all going through exactly the same kind of program. I'm very pleased as well to see that that program has extended into Francophone countries. Equally important is the collaborative Masters in Agriculture and Applied Economics, which I had the pleasure of having been the one that helped to develop it when I was in Rockefeller Foundation, and it's working. It's also working in Francophone West Africa today with the joint program on the Doctoral Troisième Cycle program, which a great friend of mine, an old classmate of mine, is also running at the University of Burkina Faso, Professor Kimsi Sabadogo. All these kind of programs are the kind of programs that allows us to make university education in Africa world-class. It allows us to share curriculum all across. It allows us to be able to ensure that any degree offered in a given university will be acceptable all across the other universities. And more than that, it allows us to have training programs with world-class universities outside of our continent. What we have to do right now is to make sure that we scale up these programs. And therefore, I want to applaud the efforts being made by the World Bank in making the decision to deepen investments in this area. And it's clearly an area that myself and the Vice President of the World Bank, Mark Tajiob, for Africa, have agreed to work on together. So let me encourage you in your deliberations today to think about three things. First and foremost, how do we get technologists that are already sitting on the shelf to millions of farmers in Africa? Because Africa has to feed itself very, very fast. Secondly, how do we create technology incubation facilities in our universities all across so that our students become entrepreneurs, developing the best set of cutting-edge technologies to drive agriculture as a business. And finally, we must change our curriculums all across our universities and begin to get our students to actually be job creators and not job hunters. That's very, very important. I wish you well in this particular conversation, and I look forward to following the outcome of these critically important set of topics that you'll be discussing. Thank you, and I wish you all the very best.